It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Let's do what we're supposed to do. Declaration of interest. Other than those ones that have been made previously, you just declare what you declared last time. Could you please invite the witnesses to join us? Today's meeting will run from 2:30 to 7 o'clock. We're going to have a short break in between, and I have got some refreshment for you all for troubling you to come here on a Saturday afternoon. I call the meeting to order. We still need Mr. Cole and Mr. Lam. Mr. Raymond Wong has a flight to catch, so I'll let him start. Then Paul will ask question. I think Mr. Cole has to leave at 4 as well. Perhaps we will ask Mr. Cole questions, and then we ask event C and then event E. Mr. Kenneth Leung has to leave us for a while at 3:30, but he will stay in the council. He has a tour to take round the Ledgecole. Can I have my turn before 4 o'clock? I have a few questions for Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole has to leave at 4. Well, after Mr. Raymond Wong, we will first ask Mr. Cole questions before we move on to other areas. Mr. Cole and Mr. Lam, about their position. Let me say that other than government officials, witnesses who have been asked to attend will not be protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privilege Ordinance, Cap 382, in relation to what they say. Thank you for coming. I asked you, and you said you would not say anything, Secretary. Mr. Raymond Wong, I have a number of questions covering different parts. Last time, we focused on the ICAC and the Audit Commission, and also the differences in the letters received by the Department and the Audit Commission. We have clarified some facts. The chairman was very concerned that ICAC seems to enjoy a special position in that they can require whatever changes they want in the report. I don't have much time. I hope that, Chairman, you will give me half an hour. Yes, but whatever question you have, please ask Mr. Cole question first. Well, my questions are not for Mr. Cole. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who are waiting to ask him questions, but I would like to hear some answers from the administration. I want to talk about Part 3, about the application assessment, and Part 4. Which paragraph? Part 3 and 4. Part 3, assessment of applications, page 20, and also Part 4, monitoring and evaluation of events. That is also a very important part in this hearing. The part starts at page 30. In relation to the third part, is quite controversial. In paragraph 3.5, in relation to the Assessment Commission, the inadequacies when it comes to governance, we have Mr. Lam here, the Secretary is here, the PS is here, that is the Permanent Secretary, and also the Commissioner. I'm sure I will get some answers. Paragraph 3.5, it addresses the governance of the assessment committee. It's divided into 3 parts. Under paragraph 3.5, well, apart from members' attendance and also reappointment of members, well, is there a system by which members can declare interests? Secondly, what about the number of times members have to be excused because of conflict of interest? Can anyone answer my 2 questions? Deputy Commissioner. Thank you for the question. The Assessment Committee of the Mega Events Fund, MEF. Since its establishment, we have put in place a declaration system. Every member will have to declare interest in relation to their local interests. And later, we introduce another tier by which overseas organizations may come to make applications. So we've added a declaration of overseas interest as well. And it follows the established declaration of interest practice of the administration. In 2012, we have extended the MEF, and there was another declaration exercise. And every time before a meeting was convened, the chairman would remind members to declare interest if necessary. And members have done that, and they have been recorded in the minutes. And there has been occasions that a member mentioned about a declaration of interest in relation to a discussion item. Members and the chairman would decide whether that particular member should remain in the discussion. Our experience shows that after declaration has been made, the member will participate in the discussion. But there has been occasions that the member would not participate in the scoring. Well, I think I've got my answer, but not the second part. Well, your answer is quite long. I have a lot more questions. Now we know there is a declaration of interest system, and at the beginning of the meeting, the chairman will ask. Okay, you have addressed the question of declaration of interest. How about the number of times when a member has to be excused because of conflict of interest? Commissioner, as far as you recollect, none? Say, for example, for electoral members, no, none? Who is to take this question? There has never been an occasion when a member has to be excused. Do you have a record? Of the number of declarations made and by whom? Can you give us the record? That is the second part of Mr. Wong's question. Well, now she said there was none, and it's reasonable, because there were only 3 meetings of the assessment committee, and the attendance rate was rather low. For some members, it's only half of the times, and so in some meetings, less than half of the members were present. So there has been a time when an application was approved with less than half of the members being present. Was there such an occasion? Because to start with, there weren't many members attending the meeting, so very often, more often than not, there was no quorum. And so was there an occasion when an application was approved when there was no quorum? Is it the case that for all the members, the attendance rate is equally low? And under 3.5a, you talk about a number of instances. Can you elaborate? Of 2 members. I don't have the attendance record, but we have to fulfill the attendance quorum principle before the meeting can be convened. In my recollection, every time we had a quorum, and more than half of the members attended the meetings. Mr. Raymond Wong. Another question. That is Part 3, Assessment of Applications, paragraph 3.9. In the audit report, it says that according to the administration, only Hong Kong NGO are eligible, so the number of applications are small. Say, for example, the Man U one, it was by the Hong Kong Football Association. The golf is by the Credit Suisse and also the Golf Association, and the Classics is also another association, and with the Lion Dragon Dance Extravaganza is under the leadership of Legislative Councillor Mr. Chan Kam Lam. He said that organizations lack the experience and ability to host very large-scale events. That doesn't stand. Can I draw this conclusion? That is, there is a failure in effective monitoring of the fund, and as a matter of fact, the administration gave them a free rein. I do not agree with that. When the fund was set up, we said that there will be NGOs, there will be non-profit making organizations and making applications for sports events as well. So when it comes to a sports event, and non-profit making organizations would normally be the sports associations. And as to who's in charge of these sports associations, well, that is not our consideration. What we did was that all eligible non-profit making organizations will have their applications considered as long as they meet all the requirements, and we have a monitoring mechanism in place to monitor their performance. Under paragraph 3.10, we see that there is no evidence showing that the Secretariat had raised any inquiries with the organizer concerning the letter's relationship with the associate. So, first, has there been any inquiries made? And two, whether the Secretariat has looked into the background of the 12 members? And three, whether they are aware of any conflict of interest. I think what Mr. Wong was saying under paragraph 3.10 is event C, C1 to C4. As far as I understand, the applicant at the stage of assessment of applications disclosed that two members in the assessment committee would co-host the event. As far as I understand, there was disclosure. Mr. Raymond Wong. 3.13. I have a question for Mr. Cole, but I believe that there will be others asking him questions. It doesn't matter. You can ask him questions too. These are questions, simple questions on the applications, but I want to first deal with part 4, paragraph 4.4, monitoring and evaluation of events. There are 23 MEF events. Agreements had been signed. Audit analysis of the records revealed that 13 of the 23 events, the funding agreement were signed by the Tourism Commission with the organizers in less than 1 month before the event. In 4 extreme cases, the agreements were executed just a few days before the event dates. And it sets out the detail in the report. And I want to know the remaining 10 agreements, how long before the event date were they signed? Deputy Commissioner, I don't have the exact information. I believe that is about a month or two for 2 reasons. First, it depends on the time when application was received and the actual event day, if there is a difference of maybe several months, we would sign the agreement maybe a month or two before the event. The second scenario is that when an offer was made to the organizer, we would still work with them on the budget and the scale of the event, and we would like to be as detailed as and accurate as possible. So we spend quite some time to finalize the agreement and make sure that they fulfill all our requirements. We want to make sure that the scale is reasonable before we sign the agreement. So it normally would take about 1 to 2 months. So that half of them before the event receive the funding. That means without the fund, they would still be able to organize the event by fund advancement. For those events, what was the fund from the MEF used on? Well, it depends on the actual event. Members may recall that funding from the MEF was subject to a ceiling, which is 50% of the total expenditure of the event. When we vetted the application, we will find that there will be other sources of income. For some events, we give them the first funding, maybe 1 or 2 months, but it doesn't mean that they will not have the fund to organize the event. Last time we touched on this, and so it was said that in the Lion and Dragon Dance Extravaganza, the salary was sponsored. And you also mentioned that you only fund half of the expenditure, but you have to be very clear about the remaining 50% of income. You can't say, well, as long as I give you 50% of the fund of the expenditure, I don't care where you get the remaining 50%. We really have to make clear about this because we're talking about monitoring and evaluation. You have to look at it as a whole. We're talking about public money. Bear that in mind, PS. When we vet an application, we would look at the entire budget of the event, which included whether they are paid by the fund or not. When we receive the evaluation report and the independent audit report, we would also look at the entire expenditure of the event, including the part that is not funded by the government. And when we vet the application, when we monitor it, when we follow it up, we look at the entire event. So can you explain to the committee that when it comes to the use of the fund, it may be on certain areas, but when you monitor the entire event, you look at all the areas, including those that are not covered by public money. You should explain it in this way. You give them such an amount of money covering 4 areas. And on top of that, you will look at other areas not funded by the government.
Okay.
Chairman, the early stage when we made distributed funding from the MEF, we had the requirement that the funding from the MEF would be used to pay for part of the items for the event. At the beginning, in the agreement, the details might not have been, spelled out so clearly, but in the agreements at a later stage, we would stipulate which of the expenses would be sponsored by the MEF. When we receive the application form, we would look at the budget for the entire project. And the Deputy Commissioner also said that even if the assessment committee agrees to sponsor a particular event, and after the controlling officers given its permission, we will still spend time to discuss with the applicant regarding those aspects of the budget which we find are problematic, and we'll only put it down in the agreement after we iron out all the problems. And when they submit the auditor's report, the report will cover the entire event and the total expenditures incurred, including the money which has not been paid for by the MBF. All that would need to be provided in the report and also in the auditor's report. Mr. Raymond Wong also asked you a question about these other sources of income than the MBF. It depends on the project concerned. Sometimes they may raise funds from members of the community. Sometimes the organizer might have its own funding. There are other cases where they were able to obtain commercial sponsors. In the financial report and in the budget, they would also explain that. But would that be one of the basis for your evaluation? Let's say in future, if they were to apply to the MBF again in future, of course we would require them that we require that if they say for a particular event, we require them to obtain a sponsor, a commercial sponsor, before we would support that event. If it is written in the agreement that it is a prerequisite, then or sometimes we may request the applicant to be able to find other sponsors or title sponsors, and they will need to comply. Of course, when they submit the financial report, they will need to tell us the total revenue and the sources of revenue for the entire project. But when there is a commercial sponsor, we have a problem. That is when the government has paid, given the funding, and the MBF has, provided funding, and they organize an activity which actually is beneficial to a commercial organization. For example, in a soccer match, the public were not able to buy the tickets. So I think we are concerned that you cannot simply say you pay for 50% of the funding and then they will find the remaining 50% and then you don't need to monitor them. I think in the report we must point this out. So where there is a need for sponsorship, I think you have a serious problem. Next, in 4.8, paragraph 4.8, in the audit report, paragraph 4.8, it says clearly here that the tourism commissioner is simply, did not regulate them regarding the connected persons and so on. So if before the signing of the funding agreement, the Tourism Commission and the MBF did not conduct a detailed investigation before they approved the funding, that is problematic. If it is after the signing of the agreement, then the Tourism Commission and the MBF would have failed in their duty to monitor the such events. Chairman, if we are looking at paragraph 4.8 of the audit report, Mr. Wong is about, Mr. Wong's quoted the example, actually this is in paragraph 4.9, example 8. That is, at the time of application, the applicant had already made a disclosure that he would be engaging an agent to implement the event. In its application form, it stipulated clearly that it will be engaging this company. My question is, you have to investigate into that related organization, not whether or not it has made a declaration. I'm not saying that he has not made a declaration. The question is, who is this related party? You need to look into that. So before you give your permission, have you studied well, they've provided all the relevant information. That would be sufficient in your, is that right, Mr. Permanent Secretary, Chairman? Of course, on the day in question, if we found there was a problem, we would ask questions. But in this particular example, they have made all the disclosure, including the governance structure of the organizer. All that had been disclosed already. Mr. Wong, anything that the Commissioner would like to add? Now, the assessment committee, when they received the application from the organizer had supplied detailed information about the track record of the event in support of the application. In the track record, Chairman, I don't think she would provide any answer the question. When my question is whether or not they had made a declaration. No, my question is whether or not you have, after the applicant has made a declaration, did you investigate into those relevant organizations? Let's say all the declarations were true. Did you believe that everything they have declared were accurate? Well, you've looked at the information. Did you vet the information? I believe that the things that we needed to know were already in the information that they have provided. In 4.12, the ICAC laid down 4 requirements, but why have you not go for? Why is it that the fund believed that the organizer were able to exercise self-discipline? Deputy Commissioner, or who would like to take the question? Mr. Raymond Wong, could you ask the question again? I think it's very clear in paragraph 4.12. After the ICAC's review, the MEF Secretariat had provided to all MEF event organizers copies of the ICAC best practice checklist on procurement and staff recruitment. Why, according to those 4 requirements, the requirement is that there should be detailed that everything should be done in an open, unbiased, fair, and competitive basis. How could you be satisfied that they were all complying with those guidelines? I think we do have this requirement relating to Section 10. When our colleagues receive the assessment report, we would take random checks. We will not check all the information, but there will be random checks. And also in the independent auditor's report, we would require the auditor to give an opinion as to whether or not the organizer has complied with our requirements pursuant to the contract. Of course, we would also respect and accept the opinion of the auditor. Mr. Raymond Wong, in 4.14, the Audit Commission, in checking the records of the MEF, discovered the suspected improper charging of expenditures, and they refer to event G. I think members can refer to A and B, suspected improper charging of expenditures and overseas TV advertisements. I think the report did not mention the TV advertisement in Canada. Why is it that the $92,000 and the $32,970 expenses were not backed up by proper invoices? So how did you monitor the charging of expenditures? Chairman, I think we are looking at event J. This was the first batch of events that we approved. At the time, we did vetted the applications, but we must admit that the vetting at the time was not detailed enough. But the reports submitted by these organizers, according to our colleagues, our colleagues conducted an investigation according to the understanding. But with the benefit of hindsight, those checks were not thorough enough. And here it says that the organizer had achieved good results, and the the HAB know that the market promotion was $2.5 million. Did the organizer had collaborated with the Bureau previously? And then pursuant to paragraph 3.10, you will continue to give them the funding. Deputy Commissioner. Chairman, for this event, we only provided to this organizer one-off funding. We have not supported any further events organized by this organization. The Dragon and Lion Dance extravaganza for 3 years, there were no invoices and for the expenses incurred. Why is it that over a 3-year period you've not asked the organizer for such records? If they had not submitted the records for the first year, why did you approve the application in the second and third year? Chairman, our colleagues, when they conducted the evaluation after the event, our colleagues had invited the organizer of the event to the Tourism Commission's office, or we've gone to the office to take random checks of the invoices and bills. But the report, according to the report, indeed we have not copied the bills and invoices that we've checked and filed them at our office, and therefore we're not able to provide them to the Audit Commission. But we had indeed looked at those invoices. We had looked particularly in detail on those items which were funded by the IMBF. For those which are not supported by the IMBF, it doesn't mean that we did not take any random checks, except that we did not take check them so intensively. Well, you pay 50% of the event, and the organizer will hire the people, and they will also find other sponsors. Why do they need to give you the invoices? So in other words, you will only look seriously into those invoices relating to those events or expenses which were sponsored, supported by the MBF funding. I think they've done it for 3 years. There were no invoices ready in the first year. They already failed to comply with the requirement, and you continue to approve the application in the second and third year. Isn't this one of the assessment criteria? They claim that it's a mega event, or is it because the applicant is Mr. Chen Kam Lam? I didn't originally want to say this. Now, who would like to answer the question? Chairman. Of course. First of all, could you clarify whether or not they did not submit any invoices in the first year? Quotations, staff recruitment records, payment for the performance, and so on. I think the questions was very detailed. So first of all, were there no invoices at all for the first year? Well, according to the record of the Tourism Commission, we do not have copies of such invoices. But did you look at such invoices at the time where we conducted the audit or inspection? We have asked them to show such invoices, but we did not look at all of the invoices and quotations. Certainly, I think this should be, reflected in the report that we will write in due course. I'd just like to say this to members. Some of the people present here doesn't know how the PAC operates. All the evidence which we hear at the committee's hearing will be in the record. So I hope that when you answer your questions, please be, brief and give us an accurate account, and do not lead us around the bush. Next, also the $100,000 for a commercial sponsor's product placement. Did the fund MBF knew about this beforehand? After the event had taken place, did the MBF knew about the existence of a commercial sponsor? Did you try to find out about the details from the organizer? Mr. Raymond Wong, which paragraph are you referring to? It's 4.14, paragraph 4.14. The so-called suspected irregularities. Well, this is what the audit report said. I think we asked very detailed questions, and just now we heard that they did a very sloppy job when they checked the invoices. I believe Mr. Wong is referring to paragraph 4.14 bracket E. What the MEF funded was the broadcasting fee for the event. There was no detailed breakdowns. It was a one-off funding for the entire broadcast. And subsequently, we found that some of the funding was used for commercial sponsor and shouldn't have been paid for by the MUF. We must admit that when we agreed to sponsor the broadcasting of the event, we did not ask for detailed breakdowns. Next, we may now go to paragraph 4.16. I'm sure members already read the report in detail already. So 4.16, it's about the ticket distribution. Why is it that the Secretariat of the MEF and the Tourism Board did not regulate the distribution of tickets? Why is it that right at the beginning you did not require the organizer to at least distribute half the tickets to the public? Deputy Commissioner. Well, actually, for this mega event, it's a nature that there was no limit to admission. It's not an event stage at the Hong Kong Stadium where there would be a limit on the number of attendants. This is a very large venue, and any person who would like to buy tickets would be able to buy tickets. The so-called 7% of the tickets were sold to the general public, only 7%. That is 1,500 members of the public were able to buy tickets to enter the venue. If we had more members of the public who would like to buy tickets to enter the venue, the organizer would actually be able to oblige. 4.19 is the visit of Manchester United. The funding was $8 million. You are aware that there was already a demonstration match in Thailand earlier. So why did you not review the funding? We've made reference of the general practice when foreign teams visit to Hong Kong. Normally, it would be in the form of an Asian tour. For these famous teams to just come to Hong Kong for a single match would not be possible. Normally, they will visit several countries. What we require in the contract is that they cannot hold matches in cities nearest to Hong Kong like Macau or Shenzhen or southern China, because we know that this certainly will have an impact on the promotion of the match. But technically, we were not able to say that this team cannot perform any of the matches in other parts of Asia. Otherwise, given the financial strength of the MBF and the teams in Hong Kong, we would not have been able to invite these teams to come to Hong Kong. I think the criterion is not based on geography. You say they could not hold any matches in neighboring countries. Now you're talking about Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Well, the name of the team is Manchester United. It cost $8 million, and then we're talking about it was a performance match. Other than being paid the performance, the fees, they also earn other incomes. For example, I bought the jerseys. But the thing is that we need to ask these questions because we want to find out whether or not we got value for money for the funding that was allocated. You have your own standard. Well, this is Manchester United. We could have been asked to pay $16 million. We only paid $800. I mean, what happened if they refuse to come a second time? In fact, there are overseas foreign teams coming to perform in Hong Kong without any sponsorship from you. So the point here is that you have different standard. Well, the team is called Manchester United. Now, if you believe that it is not practical to ask Manchester United to just come to Hong Kong solely, then you should not have this condition that they should not organize or take part in any matches in Southeast Asia or neighboring countries.
I don't need her to give an answer. Maybe we should give her a chance to answer the question. This is very clearly a judgment, so she doesn't need to give an answer. The fact is very obvious. There's nothing to argue. Give her a chance to answer. No, I don't understand why an answer is needed. Let's not waste our time. I'll be very brief. This clause somewhat protects us for countries in the vicinity of Hong Kong or within 1 or 2 hours flight. By means of financial sanction, we still have a bargaining chip. However, Thailand is a few hours away, from Hong Kong, so we think that this is acceptable. I understand the views of Mr. Wong, but we understand that it's very difficult to ask Manchester United to only visit Hong Kong. Did you expect such scenario to occur at that time? We understand that Manchester United was on an Asian tour. If this Asia tour did not include only Hong Kong, you shouldn't have this clause of saying that it cannot have another match in nearby Southeast Asian countries. So you should just say neighboring countries. So to make things clear. So we didn't need her to answer this. The fact is obvious. I think we should write this down in the report. I already spent 38 minutes, so I'll only ask another question. And according to the secretariats, how many organizers can manage to make a profit, and if the money is unused, who will be responsible? And this is a practice by the Mega Events Fund since 2012. And only 1 or 2 MEF events were allowed to keep their unspent balances. And our protection mechanism is this: if there is unused balance, they can apply to the assessment committee to retain the balances, provided that they have an independent account and they cannot use these funds for any other purposes. And the organizer must promise to host the same event again next year, and they will apply to the MEF again next year. This applies to events since 2012. And if an organizer comes back to the MEF again next year, and if their application is rejected, their funds must be returned to the government along with the corresponding interest. Mr. Clifton Cole must leave by 4 p.m. So let's ask questions on event G. Mr. Paul Chair, we asked about the tour of Manchester United, and there's a clause to stipulate that they cannot have matches in nearby countries. But when I look at the events by Mr. Clifton Cole, there isn't even a similar clause. Do you agree? Deputy Commissioner, in event G, we didn't have any restriction that the event cannot take place in neighboring countries. one of the when the application was filed, the organizer admitted that the event has been run in similar places, and they believe that by hosting the event in Hong Kong as a drama, it will have appeal to tourists. Past performance records by the organizer. This is something we don't have to argue about. The question is, shortly before, after the events, you didn't consider whether the appeal of the event would be affected by having it hosted in other countries. Event G is one of the earliest approved projects under MEF, and we didn't consider the matter very thoroughly at that time, so we didn't insert such clauses. But thereafter, we've always inserted such clauses in future events. They didn't even ask whether the organizer will run a similar event before or after the event. At that time, our colleagues had no knowledge of such at that time, so that was what happened. Chairman, Paul, you have anything to add? Manchester United had another match in Thailand, but Event G happens in Macau, Guangdong, as well as Hong Kong, and the event has been repeated multiple times already. Chairman, as I mentioned, we didn't know about it. So did you mean you ignored it, or what? We didn't know that the events would be run in other places. If the organizer told us about it when vetting the application, we would certainly ask more questions if we knew about it. Mr. Ko, during the last hearing, we mentioned the issue that having a similar event in Macau would dilute the appeal of Hong Kong. I think this view is people who have this view don't really understand how Hong Kong's cultural scene works. Macau is only a river away from Hong Kong, and my answer is no. You can look at it, look at the issue another way. If you are able to promote an event in as many places as possible, of course we would do it. When you filed your application, can you answer the question? Can you answer this question first? I will come to that very soon. I have to give some background first. During the last hearing, I mentioned Sands Macau, and it could only the venue only hosts 500 people. And for shows in Macau, 2/3 of the seats would not be made available. And public civil servants, teachers, and students would not attend such shows. And only about 100 tickets would be available for sale. And a lot of people could not manage to secure a ticket. So if we are only talking about 100 or so viewers, and it cannot possibly dilute the appeal of the event in Hong Kong. And a lot of people who could not buy a ticket in Macau due to the good reputation of the show, they might turn to Event G in Hong Kong. And according to our questionnaires, even more people would come to Hong Kong. A lot of people who couldn't secure a ticket in Macau would attend the MEF events in Hong Kong. So there is no contradiction or conflict. When you made your application, did you tell them that you are running the event in Macau or in the vicinity of Hong Kong? No, because we didn't feel the need to do so. I want to cite another example. In February, from February to March this year, in the Bamboo Theatre in West Kowloon Cultural District, we ran a show, we ran a drama, and during the screening, the Tourism Commission ran a huge advertisement to promote our drama. However, during the screening, we took the drama to Singapore for 3 screenings. So the idea is that we work with TC all the time for promotions, but we didn't think about declaring our shows in Singapore, and they never asked for it. There is no conflicts of interest whatsoever. I'll finish very soon. And people who we are talking about 2 groups of audience, 1 group in Singapore and 1 group in Hong Kong. There is no contradiction. I understand you're looking at the issue from an artistic point of view. We are not talking about fund to promote arts. And this is not a business deal between the government and Mr. Ko. We are not trying to have as many shows as possible. And we're not talking about viewers who couldn't get tickets elsewhere coming to Hong Kong. The idea of MEF is to promote Hong Kong and appeal to tourists. And this 2.5 million given to you doesn't only serve to promote your art group, but it wants to promote Hong Kong as a city of events. What Mr. Ko said shows that you didn't understand what the purpose of MEF is for. Do you have anything to add? I think taking an event from Hong Kong elsewhere does not contravene our original purpose. We are just providing an extra option for tourists to Hong Kong. I'm not sure if you have copies of our documents. You attended a meeting on the 12th of May. Can you turn to page 91 of the transcript? Can you read it out? When your response to our questions was that in the contracts, usually we stipulate the blackout periods for repeated shows. There is a blackout period 3 months, from 3 months before the event to 3 months after the event. And when we were invited, we didn't see any blackout periods. Yes, I remembered what I said. I want to elaborate on my answer. You were invited for an overseas screening, and you said you have to go. You said you would read the contracts carefully to make sure that there is no blackout period restrictions. Can you answer my question first? If I was invited, of course, I would look at the contracts. If I was invited for an overseas screening, of course, I would look at the contracts. If you believe there should be no restriction, why did you have to read the contracts time and again? If according to what you said, you didn't have to worry about the contracts. So no, this is not the case. So I have to give you more background. The contracts were issued by the government when we received the contract in February. We only have a month or so before the screening in March. After we received the contracts, we had no reason to doubt or make amendments to the contracts. We didn't have any room for that. We had to sign the contracts immediately. So if the contract party had any doubts whether we would run the show before or after the events, they should stipulate blackout dates. And the government is well aware that there should be there could be blackout restrictions, because I saw that in 1997 the Urban Council asked us to produce a musical, and they stipulated that the artists concerned cannot take part in other shows in the vicinity of the events in order to secure the ticket office. And we believe that this is wrong. We shouldn't have such blackout dates because we shouldn't restrict our artists to certain shows. Hong Kong doesn't have a lot of artists, so we shouldn't further limit their livelihood. And at that time, we liaise with the relevant department to take out the blackout periods. Right now, for the relevant contracts or contracts with LCSD, there are no blackout dates. There are no such clauses anymore. And under MEF's contracts, we don't have such clauses. So I believe that they are they feel that there is no conflict of interest. If they have any concern, they should have inserted such clauses. So last time the secretaries said if the secretary said they would reconsider the application if they knew we would screen the show in other places. I was really surprised because if they had such concerns, they should have included such clauses. So I don't feel there is any contradiction whatsoever. There is no conflict of interest, and there is no conflict at all. Let me finish myself. I'll be very quick. The contract party didn't insert any blackout dates, and after that they have doubts and they're asking questions of us afterwards. This is very unfair. Maybe I will allow the Deputy Commissioner for Tourism to answer this question. And Mr. Koh said the LCSD should have inserted blackout dates if they have concerns, and so he feels unjust. And the administration didn't have such considerations whatsoever at that time. The relevant departments, LCSD, Home Affairs Department, they didn't take notes of their comments at all. We did take reference of the LCSD's views. At that time, if I remember correctly, they felt that the shows weren't new. They have been shown in other places. So their only concern at that time was that would the show still hold enough appeal for tourists? And in the early years of the assessment committee, we were indeed inexperienced, and we were hoping to support local NGOs to come up with ideas for mega events. And the organizers claimed that these shows had proved popular in previous screenings. We had read the contracts. Why weren't there any blackout dates? As Mr. Koh said, for artistic contracts, the blackout dates weren't common anymore in similar contracts. Indeed, we weren't very experienced at that time, but if we knew that these shows would be screened again shortly after the events, we would inform the assessment committee, and the result could have been different. It might have been different, but I cannot be sure, and I cannot speculate on that afterwards. The LCSD had done so many similar events. How could you insert blackout dates before the events? It can be afterwards as well. You knew that the LCSD had done a lot of similar shows. We knew that the show had been screened in other places. We knew that. For the show in Macau, they had a screening in December, And in December, they already decided, they already promised another show on the 6th of February, and the contract was signed on the 5th of February. They didn't tell us that they intend to rescreen the show, but there are a lot of advertisements in Macau. I don't recall the contents of the ads, but the fact is they didn't report the matter to us. The organizer didn't report the matter to us. Looking at Appendix B, there is a lot of there are a lot of overlaps. This is quite amazing. Before the contract was signed, there was a show before the contract, and after that, they were all overlapped, and there is a chaos, and the value of the mega event was lost.
Just now, the Deputy Commissioner admitted that there was inadequacy, but the entire vetting process was a complete mess. Deputy Commissioner, I believe that when it comes to the following shows, we were not informed by the organizer, and we were not aware of that, and that is where the inadequacy lied. According to the information supplied by the organizer, we found out the number of shows and the number of participants they have managed to attract. And as to and they are reasons that supported the claim that a certain number of participants would attend. But were you informed that before and after the mega events that they would stage these shows? Let me explain again that in the application form they have mentioned about that before, but for those shows that are run after the event day, well, there is no such provisions in the agreement. But if I were the organizer, I would have told the fund committee and see if they would disagree. Mr. Lam, when we vet an application, we would do so in accordance with the information supplied by the applicant. As stated, and when it comes to shows staged before and after the event date, we did not receive the information. So at the time when the application was vetted, we could only do so in accordance with the information supplied. You were aware of the shows to be staged before that? Yes, but not those after the event date. All we could do was vet the application in accordance with the information supplied by the applicant. When it comes to shows staged in Macau or other places that the applicant would like to do, if we had the information, we would have had a discussion, but we did not have the information. Mr. Koh, you would like to supplement? I would like to reiterate that you think that when a show is staged in Hong Kong or when a show is staged before or after the event day is a big deal. But from our point of view, the view from our sector is no big deal. Mr. Koh, let me explain to you. Let me finish. I was very patient in listening to your explanation. But from our perspective, it's a perspective of the LegCo, which is money value for money. We have to go through all the details and clarify everything. So we thought we would look into the matter in accordance with the report, how the report is set out. We don't have the information you supply in the report, and I thank you for giving us the information, and we will take that into account in our deliberation. But we look at it from the perspective of value for money. So can you standardize the definition of value for money? Say, for example, the Tourism Commission advertise or promote the show for us in Hong Kong, but they did not ask any questions in relation to those shows staged outside. And in the venue partnership scheme, the LCSD did not ask any questions, and all of a sudden questions were asked. So can there be more certainty? Well, let me explain to you that we deal with the information supplied in the report. We look at the principle, we look at the criteria. You have the duty to set all the information out. Say, for example, the shows staged previously and the show to be staged on the 6th of February in Macau. You should have told them that there would be a show on the 6th of February in Macau and there would be other shows in Canada. They could not pump you for information, but you should take the initiative to supply the information because it's an honor system. We will try to be fair and just. Paul? From the information I've seen, well, I see that it's slightly different in the minutes of the minutes of the committee. I don't know whether it's because you did not supply it. In relation to event G, there is no such record. Mr. Ko, I know that you're a member of the tourism board. Were you a member at that time? I don't think I was. No, I wasn't. Paul? I don't think you should approach it in this way. Well, because I didn't have the record and I wanted to find out what happened. Well, when the commissioner was looking for the information, let me ask this. Mr. Cole, you obtained funding from various government departments. They may be related to arts development or leisure and recreation. So you have you received any funding from government departments for similar events? Not myself. No, I'm not talking about you yourself. Don't be pedantic. It's not a play on words. I'm talking about dramas of a similar nature. In relation to subsidies, arts subsidy, we have received very little. No, it's not just you yourself. I'm talking about the true participating in the mega events in the past. On a number of occasions, have you received any subsidy from, say, LCSD or government departments for staging shows? I can only tell you that yes, we have received a subsidy, but not on a multiple of occasions. In relation to event G in Gen 11 actually, R62, R60/3 Gen 10. Could you give Paul the information? Yes, I have it, but I would like to go back to my previous question. Mr. Cole, please refer to Gen 20. Gen 20, I think page 80. It's a handwritten 80. Let me read the information. Page 80. In the information, you have to answer a question. That is, in relation to the event, whether it has received any public money from other schemes and whether your organization would supply for subsidy funding from the government. I think that is the effect of the question. That is, whether you have or would apply for government funding to subsidize this event. Please find it. I think your answer was no. You mean 80? 80, handwritten 80. 76. Is page 18 of the application form. I can see it. You replied no. Let me put it this way. Did you understand the reason for asking such a question? Mr. Cole? Yes. So you understand his question? I think I do. Well, your answer is a no. That is, you did not and would not apply for government funding from other government departments of a similar event, i.e. drama. In relation to the 4 shows, at that time there would not be any other applications made. Paul, I think you will ask your last question before we move on to other members. Could you repeat? You did not, but what about before that? You talking about the few shows or the event? Those shows, those dramas or pieces. But that's how I understand this question. The mega event is the 4-in-1 event. It's a new idea, but we were criticized for rehashing old ideas. But we did not agree with this suggestion because it's a musical festival with 4 different pieces. It's a new combination. It's a new idea, and we have not applied for any government funding, and we did not plan to make applications for public funding. Let me pause here. Mr. Gary Chan, thank you. I have a few simple questions to ask Mr. Cole. Mr. Porter has clarified a number of matters. I would like to refer Mr. Cole to pages 35 and 36 of the Chinese version. It is in relation to event G. About 240,000 spent, and another 470,000 and 337,000 spent on publicity. If you recall what you said in the previous hearing, Mr. Cole was of the view that publicity in nearby places or overseas countries would not dilute the appeal of the mega event. Mr. Cole, you should answer in this way. You should answer the actual question. It's page 44 in the English version. Your staging of the same show in Guangdong province and Macau, in your view, would not dilute the appeal to audience in Hong Kong. No, it would not dilute the appeal. I remember in the last hearing, you quoted the example of another show is a concert. You said that those who are watching the show in Hong Kong and on the mainland are 2 target groups, and you explained that audience in Hong Kong and audience overseas are 2 different target groups. Those who would watch a show in Hong Kong would not watch the same show overseas. No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was when they are in Hong Kong, they would consider whether to go to Lan Kwai Fong for a drink or watch the show. And they are in relation to people who would return to Hong Kong. If they decide not to return to Hong Kong, they would watch the show overseas. So you spent over 400,000. You spent $240,000 in publicity to appeal to a Canadian audience to come back to Hong Kong to watch the show on the 1st of April. When I was referring to people coming back to Hong Kong specifically to watch the show, it wasn't in relation to this event. But some of them would consider coming back to Hong Kong to watch the show. That is one of the reasons they come back to Hong Kong, and the fact that they are aware of the shows, and when they return, they would consider watching the show. I think there are two different ideas here, two different logics. In the report, it specified that $240,000 was spent by Mr. Ko in a Canadian TV station to publicize Show A. And Show A was staged in Canada after it was staged in Hong Kong. If a show was staged in Canada funded by you, and you have $240,000 for publicity, would you think that I might as well spend the $240,000 for Show A? That is not right. If that is not right, then why would you use $240,000 on Show A and not on other shows? Last time, Mr. Ko, you explained to us that it wasn't used for publicity in Canada. And I just want to remind you that. Last time, I made it very clear to the committee that we were invited by Canada after the mega event started in Hong Kong. And it wasn't hosted by us. We only received a production fee. We went there at the invitation of the Canadian host. We did not know what the advertisement was for. The advertisement might be for advertisements or any other different forms. We spent that amount of money to attract Canadian audience to come back to Hong Kong to watch the show. Another important point is that we spend the resources in the two cities in Canada because we thought that this show would appeal to spectators in Canada. Say, for example, if I'm doing Sam Hui or Paula Choi, then I would appeal to New York audience. And this one is for it's a show, it's a musical that combined Fei Wong and Perry Chiu and Cheung Tat Ming. We thought that we should devote the resources to appeal to audience that would come back to Hong Kong. Mr. Ko, when you spent the $240,000, when did you make the decision? Could you prove to us with invoices and receipts what you said? If you ask for documentary proof, well, like I said last time, all the receipts and invoices and documents have been supplied to the MEF. I don't have anything new to add. I believe that there is a monitoring mechanism in place. In relation to the invoices and receipts given to the MEF, well, we were invited by the MEF to attend their office, and on the 21st of January 2011, we received a letter from the MEF. Let me read out the letter again.
Very carefully, your extra efforts and initiatives in organizing the project is highly appreciated. 並且係講明 agreement will be made to settle the account with you。所以其實嚟講，我哋
If you ask me, I think this decision was made around the time when the decision was made by the MEF. So around the time when the agreement was made with the MEF, we have already produced the clips of 15, 30, and 1 seconds and 1 minute to promote the Canadian production. Mr. Cole, you just promoted show A and not the others. When you made the decision, did it occur to you that you should avoid the allegation that you're using the MEF the money to for your own benefit? When I decided to promote show A, it was before the time when the agreement with the MEF was signed. Well, in relation to the 240,000 publicity expenditure, it is in Gen 3. I couldn't find it before. I now tell you it's in Gen 3. So, in relation to the $240,000 overseas advertisement, did it boost ticket sale for the shows? From the survey we did, there are more overseas spectators for show A, and the attendance for show A was higher than the rest. I was talking about the 3 shows overseas produced by you. No, not produced by me. I was asking about the $240,000 spent in Canada. Did it help with the box office in the 3 shows in Canada?
I don't know if you say it helped. I wouldn't deny that. But our 3 shows in Canada indeed attracted a full house. I think I can only say that when the organizers who actually staged our 3 shows did a good job in terms of promotion. Mr. Cole, for your 3 overseas performance, he had indicated that it was a charity performance. So did you charge any fees for those 3 performances? We did charge a very low performance fee. Could you tell us how much you charge for those 3 performances? Could I provide the information after the hearing today? I don't have it offhand, and also to some extent this is sensitive information. All right then, Chairman, I have 2 more questions. I'd like to invite Mr. Cole to go to page 36 of the audit report, Roman 3. That is in the expenses declared. There is an item, $92,000, which were not supported by any invoices. There is another item, $22,900 used for the promotion of the performances in North America, and there is only a single, receipt from a Canadian bank. So to what purposes were that amount used? Could the MEF also confirm whether or not those 2 amounts had been refunded? In relation to these 2 amounts, I don't have anything further to add. After the meeting, could you give us the answer in black and white? I had already undertaken that my company, during although it's very busy, we'll try our best to locate the information. But I must reiterate that for this case, the files have been closed. The accounting staff and the promotion staff had already been disbanded. We had previously attempted to look for those information, and we have not been successful so far. Could the Secretary please confirm that these 2 amounts have not been repaid? Repaid or disbursed? Have you paid the amount to Mr. Cole? Yes, we have. Why don't you have any receipts? You don't know where the money has been spent, and you still give him the money. Chairman. Yes, beg pardon. I'm trying to help you locate the document. I think it's in Gen 3. You find the $92,000 that is in relation to the advertisement, but I cannot find the date. Commissioner, I'm referring to two items, $92,000 and $32,900. It's in Gen 3. It's in Gen 3. The $92,000 at the bottom. Deputy Commissioner, could you answer the question? I think to answer Mr. Chen's question as to why we still disperse the money, even though we didn't receive we have not received the invoice. I have already admitted earlier that this is one of the mega events that we approved at the earlier stage. I must admit that the vetting procedure at the time was not detailed enough. Our colleagues at the time, when they took random checks of the invoices, they would ask questions, and if the organizer's explanation was satisfactory, then they would accept such explanation, and if not, then they would raise the issue to the assessment committee. We must admit that in our files we have no records of such invoices or explanation, but this is not just confined to this particular event, because in our files at the time we did not have such information. So I'm afraid I would not be able to give any further answers to Mr. Chen. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. Well, the fact that they don't have any invoices and they don't know where the money how it had been spent. You approve the payment of $140,000. I find it really rather strange. Yeah, there are no dates either. They only mention television, and there's no receipts either. Could the Audit Commission help us look at these two amounts? Certainly we can follow up on that, because according to our documents, these two items of expenditure are there. Deputy Commissioner, I think I missed out one point earlier. We know that we are not professional auditors, and that is why all along we have requested the organizers to provide independent auditors' report to confirm that they have satisfied with all the requirements in the agreement. For this mega event, again, an auditor's report had been submitted, and the auditor's opinion was that the organizer has satisfied our requirements. Is my understanding correct that when a report is submitted to you, you will not look at each and every item of the account? You would only look at the audited accounts, and then you take random checks of the items. Chairman, normally it is our practice to require the applicant to submit, that is after they've completed the project, they would need to submit an independent auditor's report. Because after the auditor has checked the account, it's not possible for us to look into each and every invoice. As the Deputy Commissioner said, if we find any discrepancies in the evaluation report, we will ask questions, and we will ask them to provide the invoices for our checking. But definitely we would not look into each and every item and require them to give us the invoices and the bills for checking. To some extent, we were relying on the independent auditor. In Gen 20, you have Pt1 Chen and Company. The auditor's report is there. So perhaps I can ask the Audit Commission to help you look at those items in the account. I believe, Mr. Leung, I think the administration should understand that the Audit Commission's, the PAC's public hearing on the mega event is whether or not the regulator has not done his job properly. Apparently they have been rather lax in discharging their duties. We are now giving you this opportunity to tell us, to prove otherwise. So we're now giving you this opportunity to prove that. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Shanakan's question. All right, you've read the audit report and the $32,992,000 items were not supported by documentary evidence. Even though Mr. Wong said earlier that he accepted the auditor's report, but having read the Director Audit's report, have you ever thought of asking for the evidence in support of these two items of expenditure? Deputy Commissioner, I understand that the Audit Commission, when they look into Mega Event G, it had asked the organizer for the invoices at the time. The Tourism Commission, as the facilitating party, we've also asked the same question. But our task basically was to help the Audit Commission with its audit, and we did not conduct another round of assessment. When the organizer, for the invoices which have been submitted to the Audit Commission, we have not, reviewed them, each and every one of them ourselves. I'm not saying that you should look at each and every one. I'm just referring to these two items. On page 36, the two items are under Roman 3. So my question is that Mr. Cole and the Tourist Commissioner, as the controlling officer, did you know what was written in the contract that was signed between the two of you? If you look at Gen 20, Chairman, Gen 20. If you look at page 26, well, this was signed on the 5th of February 2010. Could anybody assist Mr. Cole here? Because he is now, under investigation. This is an agreement which Mr. Cole signed. In 12.1, it is stipulated that at the conclusion of the mega event and within a period of 7 years, you must retain each and every one of the invoices, the account records, and so on. I believe, Mr. Cole, when you said that you've already disbanded all the staff concerned, this is not an acceptable reason, because if you did that, you would be in breach of the contract. If Mr. Cole has breached the contract, the Tourism Commissioner, as the regulator and controlling officer of the mega event, has not really enforced the terms of the contract. So could the PAC, come to this conclusion, Chairman? Perhaps I can ask the two gentlemen, the two parties, to answer my question. Who would like to answer the question first? Mr. Cole. Let me reiterate again that after the mega event was concluded, we had already submitted all the information we had on hand to the mega event fund, and our staff at the time had already went to the office and we also accepted a letter from the MUF which clearly said that they have settled the account and accepted all the information that we have submitted, and found them to be they have considered them very, very seriously, carefully. So as a performing company without any subsidy, the only thing we could do is to disband the staff. We wouldn't retain them for 7 years just because we need to answer these questions later on. In fact, all the information that we had at the time had already been accepted by the MUF, and the MUF had already made its conclusion. So I'm not evading my responsibility. I'd just like to tell members that this is the objective fact. The information that we had at the time, we had already submitted to the MUF. The actual objective, the reality is that this contract is valid for 7 years. Now you're telling us that you cannot provide such information. You say you've already submitted the information. So the $92,000 and $32,900 for these two items of expenditure, then since you don't have the record now, I can only come to the conclusion that there's no invoices. So in other words, the Tourism Commissioner paid for these items without documentary evidence. So would it be a correct conclusion on my part that even if we pursue this any further, we wouldn't still find the evidence? Chairman, our understanding is 7 years is 7 years. So if the requirement is for the invoices to be retained for 7 years, that is the requirement. So whether or not they have, dealt with the staff or dispense the staff, dismiss the staff, it's their business. Because Mr. Cole seems to have this interpretation of his. Our expectation is that he should retain all the invoices. Mr. Cole was saying that at that time he had already submitted all the invoices to the Tourism Commission. According to our understanding, is that he submitted the invoices we asked them to submit. After we've looked at them, we have not retained those invoices into our record, and we've returned them to Mr. Cole. Definitely Mr. Cole would have other invoices relating to this case which are in their keeping, and they're not in our record or files. I understand that the last time the Audit Commission had asked Mr. Cole to provide such invoices and documents. Mr. Cole submitted some of those documents, but as whether or not he submitted all the full documents, I don't know. But the position of the government is that such documents should be kept for 7 years. Mr. Cole, Mr. Leung asks you to refer to 12.1. The responsibility doesn't lie with the government. The contract is very clear. It is the grantee, namely yourself's duty to retain those records. So even if you claim that you've submitted all the records to the MBF, but it's still your responsibility. So the question now is where are such records? I'm sorry, Chairman. At this point, I have nothing further to add. I will certainly ask my staff to try to look for all the information relating to these two items of expenditure. I've already told the Audit Commission a long time ago that our performing company is very busy at the moment. We have 5 performances going on. We would like to have more time so that we can locate all the staff who were working for us at the time. At the time when we submitted the record, all the documents that we had at the time had already been submitted to the MBF. Chairman, based on Mr. Cole's last answer, may I conclude that while he said that he is now very busy, he will still try his best to look for those evidence. That would mean that it's very likely that he won't be able to find those documents in the end. I mean, would that be a correct interpretation? He said that he will help the committee find those documents. I haven't started looking for those evidences. I can't say whether or not the chance is remote or not. I believe that the witness would know that we are, according to the requirements of the law, that is, after the Director of Audit has submitted his report, we have to publish our report in 3 months. We have to work according to our timetable. We cannot wait indefinitely. Mr. Cole should know that if you have concrete evidence to prove that these 2 items of expenditure had not been used improperly, or that the MEF did not particularly favor you because you're coaching some, then please submit such evidence to us. Chairman. So that's my question in relation to these 2 items of expenditure. And now that we're still on Jan 20, I'd like to refer Mr. Cole to the application form that you submitted at the time. You'll find this, after you've gone through the contract. The figure at the bottom right-hand corner. You may turn to page
1
the application form. No, it's not. It's actually page 65, not 100. 65. Mr. Ko, when you submitted this application form, what was your understanding of the MEF? Did you know what the MEF was? Mr. Ko, yes, I did. Do you know that the MEF was responsible for organizing mega events in Hong Kong? You also knew that you need to be able to stage a mega event to attract an audience and to create employment opportunities before you will stand a chance to be allocated the funding. Yes. So this is how the whole document says. If you go to page 66, and that is the expected deliverables and the projected economic benefits and the benefits for tourism. You say that people who watch your 4 performances, they will stay for 3 to 5 days. The hotel occupancy rate will go up, and it will also help enhance Hong Kong's international profile. And on page 67, you say that you need to recruit a large number of staff, including people responsible for putting up the stage lights, the AV, technical staff, PR personnel, and so on. And you fully understood that. So that is based on what would you apply for funding from the MEF?
On this basis, you were funded by the MEF. Having read page 82 of the application form, just beyond the signature, there is a section of statement of declaration, declaring that all the information given were correct and honest, and all the information written can be disclosed and shared in the later. So this is very fair. You should have known what your signature stands for. And under this background, I have a question, Chairman. When you look at Gen 20, when you look at page 175, you can see the financial position, and the budget was $220, and the actual amount was $201,000, and this item is labeled TV overseas by each, and then below that you see TV overseas 4-in-1. The budget was $90,000 and the actual expense was $38,000, and that means they spent $240,000 for promotions in Canada. They spent this amount to promote a drama, Women in Beijing. What impacts does it have in terms of attracting visitors to Hong Kong to watch the drama? For those $240,000, you placed ads in Canada. How could you draw the audience to Hong Kong by taking out ads in Canada? For the four shows, we have a strategy for allocating resources. We have a Chinese version of the show, The Sound of Music, and the budget for that show was actually more than the show She Came from Beijing, and we garnered a lot of support. We placed a lot of advertisements for typically dramas cannot place ads in the airport, but we received support from the airport authority, so that inbound visitors can see that The Sound of Music is being screened in Hong Kong. So for different dramas, we have different ways to promote them. The show She Came from Beijing has better appeal for viewers coming back to Hong Kong from Canada. So we have to think about our target audience. So we have to use different channels to promote the shows. Just now, Mr. Leung asked whether anyone would come back to Hong Kong just for the show. We didn't have such intention. For different shows in the past, this might be the case, but those shows didn't require any funding. If we can provide people with an additional incentive to come back to Hong Kong, if we can make them aware that we have a lot of shows and dramas or musicals, then this is all good. The Audit Commission might criticize that might criticize that the funding of movies cannot generate any revenue, but it can help develop talents in the field. So this is one point I want to stress. I hope the members understand that the $2.5 million applies to the entire events, but 45 shows were involved, and I want to stress that the 2.5 million was just for promotion but not production, and we shouldn't be so short-sighted. And I'm about to return to my studio, and we have a drama. There will be the 100th screening tonight. At that time, the 40th screening was done. Tonight we will have the 100th screening, and we are talking about Event G today. The impacts of Event G, the response of Event G was far greater than the show we have tonight. So in terms of appeal to the overseas audience, the appeal wasn't limited to the 45 shows. If we want to promote the arts, we shouldn't be so short-sighted. I thought Mr. Ko is in a hurry, but he never answered my question. When you filled in the application form in 2010, you understood what MEF stands for. This is not a funding by the Hong Kong Art Development Council. This is the Mega Events Fund. You should have known what MEF is. So your views cannot apply to the criteria of the Mega Events Fund whatsoever. And I have another question for you. When you filled in the application form, if you believed all your grant opinion at that time, why didn't you mention any of those on the application form? I already mentioned that we want to promote musicals to the overseas audience, and the impacts of the events extends far beyond those 45 shows. And I want to tell you that the trade is still benefiting these years. And in the last few years, Hong Kong has a lot of people are visiting Hong Kong just for those shows and musicals. So I have a question for Mr. Jeffrey Lam, the chairman of MEF Assessment Committee. And having heard Mr. Ko's explanations and his understanding of MEF, if the assessment committee knew what his thinking was, would his application still be approved? I cannot answer a hypothetical question because we could only look at the information submitted by the applicant, and we would make our decision on that. And on Mr. Leung's question, we would assess the relevant information submitted. We would assess the impacts of Hong Kong. This is not my personal decision, but a collective decision by the entire assessment committee. Of course, I understand. I agree with Mr. Lam. So let's just imagine if we turn the clock back to 2010, the Public Accounts Committee must assess whether there is enough monitoring. The ICAC said this is a crime bet. And having heard what Mr. Ko said, would the assessment committee have approved this $240,000 for promotion? Right now, you're the gatekeeper. You are the chairman of the MEF assessment committee. Let's just limit our discussions to this 240,000. Would you approve this funding request? I would hand the information over to the committee. As I mentioned, this is not a personal decision. This is a collective decision. If you are the person approving this application, would you have given the green light? So let's make my question simpler. Do you think it should be approved or should it be not approved? Having listened to what Mr. Ko said and having read his application form, he wanted to organize a mega event called She Came from Beijing, and 2 days after the screening in Hong Kong, it will be screened in Canada. And I would spend $240,000 to place ads in Canada, to place TV commercials in Canada. As the chairman of CEF, do you think this request should be approved? Mr. Leung, you can look at 1.5 in the reports. I think you can answer Mr. Leung's question based on these. So please read 1.5 in the report first. Read points points A through to D, and then you can answer his question. These 4 principles have to do with Hong Kong's international standing. Don't read it out. I knew what it says, but can you make use of these 4 criteria to answer his question? I cannot answer this question for you, but I can only look at what's written in the report. If these information were available at that time, we would have assessed the information based on these 4 criteria, but the outcome could only be decided collectively by the entire assessment committee. So I cannot answer your question. The question was why did the reason I asked you to read 1.5 was that it mentioned the branding impacts and appeal to visitors. It's all very clearly laid out here. Mr. Leung's question was very specific. You have criteria laid out under 1.5 and 1.8, and you can give a more concrete answer. The question was very specific, and it wasn't a hypothetical question. And these are the criteria for approval. So you should see whether these criteria are satisfied. Can you give an answer based on that? Based on Mr. Leung's question, perhaps we could not have an immediate decision. We would ask the applicant to give more information. For example, the details of the ads in Canada. I cannot give an answer right away. We would assess the information submitted by the applicant, and we would ask questions of the applicant or request for more information before we can make a decision. Chairman, I don't want to force anyone, but for such an obvious case, if there's such a big chaos in such a simple case. I think I fully agree with ICAC's suggestion to set up an anti-corruption committee. Yes, I'm in a hurry, but I want to address one point. When I filled in the application form, we weren't invited for screenings in Canada at the time we filed the application. The invitation was from Canada arrived on the 8th of April. So you should answer it this way, right? The application form was filled in 4 or 5 months earlier. The invitation from Canada came after we started promotions for the mega event in Hong Kong. So let's get the orders correct. I want to tell the witness that, and when you fill in the form on the 11th of September 2009, you might not have received the invitation from Canada for She Came from Beijing, but when you spent those $240,000 in Canada, you knew when you would go to Canada. You shouldn't have. You had screenings in Hong Kong on the 21st of April, and 2 days later you have screenings in Canada. You should have known that it doesn't matter when you filled in the application form. Yes, the dates are very clear. Excuse me, I don't think this has anything to do with the funding. When you answer your questions, I have to come back and answer whether those TV commercials were aired by late February or early March. The invitations came after we started promotions for the mega event in Hong Kong. Mr. Leung has been very clear with the dates. When you spend your money, when you made your decision whether or not to spend the money, the mega events knew they have all our TV commercial clips, and the contents of all the clips were to invite people to come to Hong Kong for the show. We already gave Mr. Ko a chance to explain himself. According to the Deputy Commissioner, the Director of Audit asked for information already, and you chose not to disclose those receipts or invoices. If you were able to produce receipts to prove that you have you spent these you spent the TV advertisement funds before the invitation for She Came from Beijing, then we wouldn't have such doubts. If you were able to honor the contracts with MEF, then it would be very helpful. So I hope this is something you can do very soon. Finally, I know Mr. Ko is in a hurry. From your understanding, do you think that you need to inform the Mega Events Fund do you think you should have notified the MEF if you knew that you received an invitation for screening of She Came from Beijing in Canada shortly after the Hong Kong show? If MEF has such doubts, they can stipulate blackout dates, then we wouldn't have all these doubts. According to past practice, including including the Mad Phoenix drama in the Bamboo Theatre in West Kowloon Cultural Districts, and they did the same. They never asked questions whether we would screen the same show in overseas countries, and it's normal practice. We wouldn't disclose such information proactively unless you stipulate blackout dates. And if you don't stipulate the blackout dates, then I assume that you have no doubts or concerns. So it's perfectly normal to promote a local show abroad. Right from day one, we knew that we assumed that Mr. Ko understands what the purpose of MEF is. If the screening was done in Canada and it took a lot of and you have to spend money, you should have notified the Mega Events Fund.
As you said yourself, that at the time when the application was made, there was no invitation, and in the 20-page application, it was all about attracting people to come to Hong Kong to shop, to stay in hotels. However, you have changed. Well, the situation has changed in its material change. Did you not think that you should inform the MEF? Mr. Cole, let me finish first. Just now, Mr. Leung made it clear that he was talking about 12.1. If you refer to paragraph 9, it says in the contract that if there was a conflict of interest, Mr. Leung read it out last time. He was asking you about 12.1, but it doesn't mean that paragraph 9 was it was asked in vacuum and paragraph 9 was not involved. You have to read the two together. Where there is conflict of interest, then paragraph 9 will kick in. Do you understand? I do, but as I said, I didn't think in the first place that there was conflict of interest. That was my judgment, and from my experience of working with government departments, there was no conflict of interest. The closer the time when they were staged, the less conflict of interest, and there was no conflict of interest. And if they insisted, why was there no blackout date? We're trying to find the truth from the documents. The documents tell the truth. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Leung? Rest assured, Mr. Cole, that you are not our only target. And the controlling officer is also the one to blame. I don't think I am to blame in this matter. I would like to point out to Mr. Cole that in his declaration, page 82, Gen 20, page 82, handwritten pagination, I specifically drew Mr. Cole's attention to it. Just read A. To save time, I'll just read out the relevant part. The second line after the full stop. We undertake that should there be any change in the information, we would immediately inform the Secretariat. You signed. Of course, the chairman is very smart. I was going to ask about paragraph 9. Now, no need. Well, here it says that should there be any changes, you would immediately inform the Secretariat. And this is a material change. It's not a minor change involving the change of address of the Springtime Theatre. We're talking about $240,000, which is 10% of the $2.5 million is for placing TV advertisement in Canada. So why did you not immediately inform the Secretariat in accordance with a part of the declaration? Sorry, Well, you said should there be any changes? I did not think that is related to that. You don't have to apologize. We're only looking at the documents and we ask questions based on the documents and we give you a chance to explain, and your explanation is very clear. And I think, yes, we have finished. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole, for giving us your time. Let's have a break of 15 minutes.
喺隔離去4個房有茶。
主席。